Our bass has been drying now for 12 hours. After 8 hours, we put a fan in front of the bass, blowing from the head to the tail. Then after about 4 hours, we are ready to take our bass off of the tin and the cardboard backing that's on the tail. To start that process, we're going to remove the clips and the plastic that are straightening the tail fin. As you can see, the tail fin is still wet under the plastic. That's why we are removing it from our cardboard backing. We're going to replace it with a piece of screen. This is actually hardware cloth. You can use screen that's similar to these fins if you want. This is a little bit stronger, and I'd recommend this for a bass to at least get started on drying the tail fin. We're just going to replace it in the same spot that we had our plastic. You see we have our clips in place. This is going to help hold this fin from curling as it's drying. And we'll actually take this cardboard backing completely off the tail fin after 2 more days and replace that with this screening. Now we need to remove the head from our tin. Before I do that, I just to make sure that it is dry enough that I can safely do that. I just test by pushing on the bottom jaw and the top jaw. And this is tight, as you can see. You cannot move it. So we are safe to remove it from the tin. First step in that procedure is to take a tweezers, and we're going to remove our foam inserts in the mouth. Now you do not want to remove these inserts if the bass head is still drying and if you can push in on it. And if you do remove them, you have to put them back in if it's still wet. This one's actually very dry. Now we're going to remove the paper towel that's inside the mouth, and we're going to use our tweezers to do that. Now we simply check inside the mouth with our tweezers, and we're going to make sure that the esophagus is pushed into place correctly. We can also do that after we remove it from the tin. I'm going to start by just looking at it from this angle. Looks like everything's pretty much straight in there, but I'll check it a little bit more after I remove it from the tin. We're simply going to pull our clip from down here that was holding our back gill cover to the tin. I just simply remove that. Now we grab onto the bass from the center of the fish, and you just lift up, and it's removed from our tin. Now we're going to flip the bass over and look at the back side. As you can see, our back gill cover has a nice sweep to it, but it's a little close to the foam right here on the back of the fish. So we need to take a little bit of foam and just wedge it out. I'm just going to lift it up, and I'm going to push that foam underneath there. You want it to be even between the front and the back, and it could actually stand to be opened up even a little bit more just from looking at that. So I'm going to grab a piece of foam that's a little bit bigger. Just push that into place. You want to make sure you don't push against your gills with this foam. It's just to wedge it out. As you can see, we now have the same gill flare in the front and the back. Also, at this angle, we're going to check our back gills to make sure they're lined up correctly. And it looks like they are. If they're not, you can take these tongue depressors and move them around, or you could put new tongue depressors in their place. But it looks good. Now we're going to take a look inside the mouth, and it looks like everything is straight. What you want to look for is that the back gills aren't pushed up into the mouth, that they're in the same position as the front gills. You also want to make sure the esophagus is level everywhere. I'm just going to take my tweezer tool and go in here and just push that esophagus around a little bit just to make sure everything is straight. And I'll show you what I'm doing here in a second. Yeah, everything on the inside of the mouth is straight and level. We don't have to do anything else there. I am going to take my piece of foam and just push it back into the mouth, even though it is pretty much dried, just as a little insurance policy to hold it in place. Remove my tin and remove some of my 2x4 supports. Just need a few of them now. Just going to set it back up. Make sure everything's supported. I'm going to go ahead and put my fan back on it. I'm going to let it dry this way for another day. Then I'm going to come back, I'm going to remove this tail cardboard and replace it with screen on the back side, just like you see it here. After about a week, then I can remove my gill cover cardboard, which we got our sweep in. You can remove the plastic from the back and start pulling the straighteners off the fins. After about a week and a half, we can actually start the finishing process. One way you can tell it's dried is actually by smelling in the eye sockets and in the mouth. If there's no fishy smell left, it is ready to finish. Because we were very careful with our fleshing, this bass is going to dry out very quickly. Also, if you're working in a damp area like a basement, it's mandatory that you have a fan on it. That's going to dramatically speed up the drying process